Are you really okay with me quitting? I asked my boss in front of me, just to confirm.
I'd rather you leave as soon as possible.
The younger female boss insulted me further. With those words, I headed home. After this, things would get tough at the company. There's no way that this female boss could have foreseen that. I'm Mark Harris, 55 years old. I have been working for this company after my divorce for 30 years. There are less than 5 years left until my retirement, but I'm still what they call a sidelined employee. I haven't seen my kid in over 30 years. My ex-wife didn't want me to see my child. I had a dispute with her at the time, but now I feel I have no choice. I made it clear that I wanted to pay child support as a parent, and that child support ended when my child reached adulthood. I don't have any plans to spend money on anything special from now on. I never really had any ambition for career advancement, so I'm grateful for this relaxed work environment where I can take it easy every day. My hobbies are fishing and golf. I often go alone on days off from work, but I make friends with people I meet or have various conversations. One of my friends owns a boat and sometimes takes me out to sea, and another friend who runs a farm often gives me homegrown vegetables. I don't have a family, but with such a wide circle of friends and acquaintances, I don't feel lonely in this lifestyle where I can spend time at my own pace. I really like this daily life where I can take it easy. One day, while heading to work, everyone seemed to be in a rush. What's going on? I asked a junior employee sitting next to me.
Well, suddenly there's going to be an inspection from headquarters.
Oh, I see. So that's why everyone's suddenly tidying up. In situations like this, you just have to show things as they are, I said with a smile as I took my seat and began my work. There have been several sudden inspections like this before, but it's never been a big issue. The employees tidying up are usually the ones whose desks are always messy. If they just did a minimum of organizing every day, they wouldn't be so flustered at times like this. I can't really talk, considering I've only come to realize this at my age. A few hours later, the inspection team from headquarters arrived. The person in charge of our department seemed to be a young woman. However, she held a management position, apparently a section chief. I watched her as I greeted her, thinking she must be quite talented.
Nice to meet you. I'm here from headquarters. My name is Sarah Brown. Today, I'd like to see how everyone is doing their work. Please continue your tasks as usual.
We nodded slightly in response to her greeting and resumed our work as usual. She's quite attractive. The young male employee seemed a bit flustered, and I chuckled at his demeanor, thinking how youthful he was.
What do you mean by that?
Sarah, the section chief, went around inspecting everyone's work, asking questions, and occasionally smiling during the inspection. However, it was when she came to me.
What are you doing now? Part-time worker there?
Those words were directed at me. I'm a full-time employee, I replied with a forced smile.
My apologies. Are you a team leader?
Sarah turned to me and said, "Oh, no, I'm just a regular employee with no specific title. As for my current task is..." I began explaining my duties when her tone suddenly changed.
What?
Sarah's tone shifted, and I looked up at her.
Just a regular employee at your age?
Her words were sharp. She seemed somehow angry, and I felt intimidated. I'm just not very interested in climbing the corporate ladder. As I stammered out my response, she started laughing.
Isn't it simply because you're incompetent? Useless old-timers like you were fired today. You don't need to come in tomorrow.
She spat those words at me. Not just me, but the surrounding employees also looked stunned at her words.
We can't afford to pay salaries to incompetent people. This is necessary for the company's cost cutting. There are plenty of replacements for you.
Finally understanding that I was being insulted, I couldn't help clenching my fist. She might be talented, but that doesn't give her the right to belittle people. Feeling angry, I stood up and said to her, "Are you really okay with me quitting?" I asked Sarah in front of me to confirm.
I'd rather you leave as soon as possible.
She seemed satisfied with my words, even chuckled, but then proceeded to insult me further. I no longer felt like working. I was told to leave. It wouldn't count as an absence. Without a word, I grabbed my bag and left the company. As I left the department, everyone tried to stop me, but I couldn't say anything in front of Sarah. Although my direct superior had more authority than the section chief, it was customary in the company not to defy headquarters employees. Without any further comments from my superiors, I walked home alone. The next day was Saturday, and the company was originally closed. While considering what to do from Monday onwards, I decided it would be a waste to spend this holiday in anguish, so I went fishing. Take your time and think while doing what you love. Fishing is the perfect hobby to carve out that time. I headed out for fishing early in the morning. My favorite fishing spot where I always go. Contrary to my mind, the waves were calm today, and it seemed perfect for fish and beer in the evening. With that in mind, I cast my fishing rod.
Hey, I was hoping you'd be here today.
Someone called out to me. "Oh, David." It was my fishing buddy, David. We met here. He's 10 years older than me, and he often looks after me, listens to my stories, and is one of my important friends.
Did you catch anything today?
The ocean conditions are good, so I thought it'd be a great catch, but it's not going as planned, I said, opening my tackle box. There's still only one fish there. Seeing that, David chuckled.
Well, don't rush it.
He said as he unpacked his gear a little away from me. Clouds slowly drifted by. Despite the familiar fishing scenery, I felt more downcast than usual, probably because of what happened yesterday.
What's wrong? You look gloomy today.
David said it to me. I chuckled at his words. I have something I need to apologize to you about.
What do you mean?
And then, I began to speak hesitantly. Well, there was an inspection from the headquarters on Friday. I met the section manager for the first time, and it seemed she didn't like me at all. I said, trying to hide my embarrassment with a smile. She told me I don't have to come anymore. I got angry and left my office. I might get fired. I'm sorry, after all the talks and encouragement you've given me.
No need to apologize to me.
After saying that, David remained silent, occasionally sighing deeply as he gazed at the floats floating on the sea. Well, I'd rather live leisurely than get busy with career advancement. But it seems that doesn't sit well with young folks who are striving hard to climb up. Dealing with people is harder than dealing with work, isn't it? When I said that with feeling, David replied,
Well, I understand the boss's feelings to some extent. However, It's wrong to talk about unfair dismissal. A good boss should understand the feelings and circumstances of their employees. That's what that boss lacks. Those who climb up solely based on their grades and achievements without experiencing failure get the wrong idea.
I fought, as expected of David. He got angry and cared about me. Talking to him made me feel much better. It's amazing how different things can be just by talking to someone. I thanked him and changed my mindset. After that, fish started biting as if everything before was a lie. Perhaps the fish didn't want to come to me, emitting such a gloomy aura. With that thought in mind, I headed home with a heavy cooler box. 2 days later, it was Monday, yet I was at home. Despite being kicked out like that, I was debating whether to go back. David, whom I met on Saturday, gave me some advice.
The company is all about people. You don't have to apologize to the company. Rest until they say something. You've been working hard, and you've had a lot of paid holidays, hadn't you?
Indeed, that's true. I've never used my paid leave before, so I should have several days off. Maybe it's a good idea to take a trip. As I pondered these thoughts, I realized it had been years since I had taken a relaxing morning on a weekday. It was when I was brewing coffee and about to have a slightly late breakfast. My smartphone rang. It was the sound of an incoming call. When I looked at the screen, the name of the company I belonged to and the name of the department were displayed. What could it be? I had informed my boss that I would be taking some paid leave for a while. Hello? Just after picking up the phone, I was greeted by the hurried voice of my boss.
Mark, get to the office right now.
Why? I already informed you that I'd be taking paid leave, I said. But my boss insisted.
Just come. It's serious. Our main contractor threatened to terminate all contracts if we fire you. Let's go ask them to continue the contract with me.
I chuckled. Why should I be the one to plead? You saw our exchange the other day, right? I was told by Sarah to leave and fired. If she doesn't acknowledge her mistake and apologize before I finish using up my paid leave, then I'm done with this company. So, I won't be involved in any future contracts. Please, consider the company's next steps. With that, I sipped my coffee.
Don't say that. I know you've been working hard all this time. Isn't that enough?
I appreciate your words. However, no matter how high Sarah is in the headquarters, or how low I am as a sidelined employee, it's not acceptable for her to be disrespectful. You must understand that, right? Please think about the future of the company, I said and hung up the phone. I had somewhat expected things to turn out this way. However, for Sarah, it must have been a bolt from the blue. It might have caused trouble for everyone at the branch. But David's words, "Don't apologize to the company," were stuck in my chest. And it was that evening I received a call from headquarters on my phone. It was probably her calling. I might be insulted again. With that thought, I cleared my throat and answered the phone. Hello?
Hello, this is Sarah Brown from headquarters. Is this Mark's phone?
Yes. But what do you want? I replied coldly, and she spoke in a subdued voice.
I was rude the other day, and I'm truly sorry. I called to ask for the opportunity to apologize to you. I'm sorry.
Her voice lacked the confidence and assertiveness from the other day. Surely, her behavior towards me during the inspection the other day had been noticed by headquarters. and she had probably been scolded by her superiors as well. Got it. It wouldn't hurt to hear her out. She specified a restaurant that's one of our company's clients and asked me to meet her there. Since I was on paid leave, I agreed to meet her that evening, eager to make amends as soon as possible. I arrived at the restaurant ahead of her. I hadn't expected to have a meal together like this, but I guess she felt I was necessary to regain that significant contract. I could feel the desperation of the company.
Sorry for being late.
Sarah said as she entered the room. Then, we sat facing each other at the table.
I apologize for calling you today.
She said, on the verge of tears. Feeling sorry for her, I smiled and said, "Your feelings have already been conveyed. I came here today to forgive you. However, your perspective is too narrow. Although I cannot preach, I wanted to hear you out a bit." She started speaking in response to my words.
Actually, I grew up in a single-parent family with a strict mother. Being raised by just one parent was already a disadvantage, so I felt like I couldn't afford to lose in either emotions or academics, regardless of the gender of my competition. My mother believed that I should study hard and join a good company to ensure I could live on my own and succeed. I also believe that this mindset is necessary to survive in society.
She said this without touching her meal. I responded, "Yeah, that's right. That's not wrong at all. And I think it's a wonderful mindset."
Thank you.
She said with a smile. She seemed a little relieved, and Sarah continued her words.
So maybe without realizing it, I've been pushing this mindset onto others around me, thinking I've been working so hard.
And that's why, even at my age, I, who haven't even been promoted, caught someone's eye. Understandingly, I chuckled, which made her feel apologetic and small. I didn't intend to blame her anymore. She must have been desperate in her own way. Then, I urged her to eat while she still kept her hands down. Though she seemed hesitant, she must be hungry after work. We both picked up our forks together. It's been a while since I had a meal like this with someone, I thought casually. But it seemed I was the only one feeling so relaxed. But she still appeared down. "Well, the company isn't run by just the bosses. You're still young. I think it's good you've realized that now," I said with an encouraging smile. Sarah finally seemed to breathe a sigh of relief in the true sense.
Thank you.
She said to me before starting her meal. Surely, her mother must have been desperate to make her daughter independent. She seemed to be a well-disciplined young lady. Then, we engaged in casual small talk. Since I didn't attend university, I listened to her stories about her university and heard about the situation at headquarters. With the tension gone, we could enjoy our meal. During that time, she asked me something.
Why did the president of the main contractor say they'd terminate the contract if you weren't there, Mark?
I chuckled. "Oh, David, the president on their side, is actually my fishing buddy. We met, hit it off, and got into talking about my work. Eventually, they agreed to contract with us. But it wasn't just because we're buddies. They listened to my proposals and were convinced." She widened her eyes in surprise.
Even though you landed such a big contract.
Then she fell silent. I understood what she wanted to say. She was probably wondering why, despite securing such a significant contract, I hadn't climbed the career ladder. I simply didn't have ambitions for advancement. I laughed, and she smiled back, Well, while David's company has their representative, most of the requests come directly from the president to me. They trusted me because they knew I was a hard worker, and we built a good rapport.
So that's how it was. Even though you've been supporting the company as a real behind-the-scenes powerhouse, I really.
Anyway, don't worry about that anymore. She probably wasn't a bad person either. Actually, to reach the managerial position in our company at her age, she must have put in a considerable amount of effort. It seemed that Sarah, our section chief, was reflecting on her previous misconception that she hadn't done anything for the company beyond surface appearances and results. If you are reflecting on it, then all you can do is keep striving. I'm already 55. Retirement is looming, and I don't have a family, so I don't plan on pursuing further advancement. Your way of thinking is spot on. Keep up your good work. I encouraged her again. At that, Sarah lifted her head.
You don't have a family.
Yeah, I don't have anyone to take care of, so I plan to continue living life easygoing from now on. Seeing my smile, she returned it with a gentle one of her own. Perhaps she thought that there was such a life to be had after hearing about my way of living. I decided that I would continue to work hard to create a company where she and the juniors could thrive even after my retirement. With that in mind, I cut my vacation short and went back to work at the company. Everyone in the same department felt relieved when I arrived. There were even some who tried to badmouth Sarah, so I conveyed this to them. I've made peace with Sarah. I've heard her side of the story too. We're all colleagues here. Let's stop attacking each other. I appreciated that they said that for my sake, but gossip only breeds more gossip. Everyone agreed with my words. And so, we returned to our usual environment, grateful to be able to resume work. It was a few months later. While enjoying work as usual and spending leisure time fishing with David and other friends on days off, I heard a rumor amidst the peaceful days.
It seems Sarah may have manipulated her performance for the sake of promotion, and now she might be called into a meeting.
I was shocked. Called into a meeting. That meant demotion, pay cut, or even disciplinary action at worst. I couldn't believe she would do such a thing. That day, we really had a lot of discussions. Her face as she talked about her efforts and difficult work didn't show any signs of lying. Of course, if there really was misconduct, she should be properly punished and reflect on it. However, if it's a false accusation, it's just too unfair. If there's even a slight possibility of a false accusation, I felt like I wanted to do something to help clear her name. Things like this happened, and I couldn't see her as a stranger. Of course, what I'm investigating is something HR has long looked into. However, I still went through the documents she prepared and checked the records of the transactions I heard about in conversation. Among them were documents from companies where my golf buddies serve as department heads or executives. I got in touch with them, talked to various people, and learned that there was no misconduct in her dealings. In fact, they all said the same thing.
Sarah really worked hard for us.
And I recommended this to HR. The head of HR joined the company at the same time as me. He's younger than me, but we've known each other for a long time.
If Mark says so, then there's no doubt about it.
He believed my words. It later turned out that the source of that rumor was the doing of her senior employees who envied Sarah. It's bewildering to see low-level people like them exist anywhere. It seems they were suspended as a disciplinary measure. A few days later, Sarah came to our department again.
Mark, can I have a moment?
She called me out. With a little nervousness, I followed her into a separate room. She said,
Thank you for the other day. I heard from the HR manager that you cleared up the rumors about me. Thank you very much.
She thanked me politely, and I replied, I couldn't believe you'd do such a thing. I just had a little chat with the HR manager. Laughing nervously, my heart was pounding. But I had to say it. Could I talk about something else? I said to her. She tilted her head in confusion. Well, actually, I've been researching various documents related to you. That's when I first learned your full name. I looked down. Or rather, I was too nervous to lift my face.
Oh, my middle name is Grace.
She said, puzzled. Summoning my courage, I finally spoke what I wanted to convey. Actually, you see, my ex-wife's maiden name is Brown, and the name of the daughter I lost contact with at the age of 2 is Grace Sarah.
What?
There was a brief moment of silence before Sarah let out a loud gasp, freezing in place. Scratching my head, I finally raised my face. Of course, I think it's just a coincidence. But, well, I couldn't help but wonder. She gazed at me with tears pooling in her round eyes. I met her gaze, waiting for her words.
My father is Mark Harris. I found out his name for the first time when I got my birth certificate.
Her words left me speechless. It's me? Those words just slipped out naturally. Feeling embarrassed, tears streamed down my face. Upon hearing my words, she clung to me, crying like a child. Cautiously, I wrapped my arms around her back. The last time I held her like this, she was only 2 years old. Unintentionally, memories of her efforts flooded back, making me cry again. Is Mom doing well? When I asked, she nodded happily. I truly wanted to express my gratitude to my ex-wife, who raised our daughter so splendidly. I never imagined we would reunite like this. Even though I thought I had no family left, I couldn't believe how close she was now. Through the people I've met and the efforts I've made, I finally feel like I've been able to be somewhat helpful to my daughter. Once again, I realize how important trust and relationships with people are. If you work hard earnestly, there will eventually come a day when you are rewarded. Unexpectedly, it can become a weapon to help yourself and your loved ones. There's me, without much ambition for climbing the corporate ladder, and my daughter, with high aspirations for advancement. Though our desires may differ, there's no denying our shared dedication to the company's well-being. That's why it's important for both of us to continue living sincerely according to our beliefs. I'd like to live a relaxed life rather than a successful career, but at least I want to work diligently until the end. Respecting my daughter's feelings, I want to support her wholeheartedly in her desire for career advancement, without denying her aspirations. By doing so, I believe my daughter and I can find happiness,